Hello, I'm Elif and this is a recap for episode 48 of the series Golden Boy, 24 hours after Turkey and before dubbed for TV. Shamus orders his men to take Pelen away. Pelen cries out in pain and calls for Farid. Farid shouts, "Let go of that wench." Seyran looks on with teary eyes. Farid goes towards Shamus and his men to intervene, but Orhan blocks his way. Nokhat talks to Farid and says she'll go with Pelen to ease her mind. Seyran struggles to reach her room, her body trembling. Breathing has become difficult as she contemplates Farid's words and promises. After all the guests have left, Sona sits on the floor, crying. Abedin goes towards her to help, but Sona rejects his hand, saying, "I just remembered something. Go prepare the car. Seyran won't stay here anymore." Shortly after, Seyran opens the door to find Farid waiting behind it. The room is in chaos, and Seyran, full of resentment, says, "Congratulations. You're becoming a father. Just one question. When did you know? You knew all along, didn't you?" Farid replies, "No, Seyran. I just found out." He falls to Seyran's feet and says, "I swear, I was afraid of losing you." Seyran says, "Then you brought her here, knowing what it meant for me. While our child is in her womb." Seyran attempts to leave the room, but Farid hugs her, and she struggles to free herself. Farid says, "If you leave, I'll be destroyed. I'm begging you." Both of them cry bitterly in each other's arms. Kozim angrily enters Khalid Khan's room, yelling, "Do you think we're fools? You set us up with that bastard, and now you want to take Seyran's divorce. Now, either do what I say, or..." Khalid Khan interrupts, "Or what? Who are you besides a coward and a rootless coward?" Kozim retorts, "Let me tell you what you should do. Get rid of that bastard. Arrange the marriage between Sona and Kaya. Otherwise, I'll ruin this mansion." He smashes the mirror in Khalid Khan's room, and at that moment, a troubled Khadija enters, shouting, "Enough." As Seyran calms down a bit, she says she needs to talk to Khalid Khan. Farid says, "My grandfather knows everything. Let's go, and he'll tell you everything." Seyran smiles bitterly and says, "Of course, he knew." She picks up the necklace Khadija gave her before the marriage, displaying it with frustration, and heads towards Khalid Khan's room. Seyran tells Khalid Khan, "How many times have you spoken of honesty and righteousness in this room? Is this your idea of righteousness?" She shows him Khadija's necklace and says, "My aunt told me that if I ever face trouble, I should throw this at your feet. She said you are an honorable man and will help me. But your honor was for your interests." She throws the necklace in front of Khalid Khan. He is affected. Seyran says, "I don't want to be anyone's pawn anymore. You've talked so much about ethics, but you're unaware of the immorality happening under your roof." Efegat, scared, says, "Take your voice away." Seyran tells her, "Are these things normal for you? Anyway, for years, you were the mistress of your husband's brother." Khalid Khan is shocked. Seyran exits the room, and Efegat falls to her knees, screaming. Orhan enters the room, and Khalid Khan slaps him hard. Golgun also weeps bitterly behind the door. Seyran tries to leave the mansion, but Kozim stops her, asking to talk in a room. Seyran says, "Why not talk right here? Bring your belt. Grab my throat." Kozim is shocked by Seyran's behavior. Farid attacks Kozim, saying, "How could you lift a hand to my wife?" Seyran tells him, "Think about why I said I don't want my father here. He used to beat me, and I always told him I was fine." Seyran embraces her mother and sister and tells Azmi not to interfere. Azmi says, "Go, Seyran." "I couldn't, but you go." Farid asks Seyran not to go, and she says, "I won't leave from here, Farid. I'll leave you." Khalid Khan calls Farid into his room, and Farid tells him, "They took my son away. They arranged a temporary marriage for the girl. My son is supposed to call someone else father. Why didn't you stop them?" Khalid Khan says, "You still don't know what you want. Do you think when you give your name to your son, you become his father? Do you separate your son from his mother? If you don't, can you be with someone else? You'll be crushed under this burden. He asks Farid to separate from Seyran now that she's gone and marry Pelen. Farid shouts, saying he won't do that, and angrily continues, I didn't want this. You sent me to Antap by force, you forcibly got me a wife. Accept your mistake once. I'm not solely responsible for these events. Seyran is not at fault at all. He repeats his words, saying he will never abandon Seyran. In the room, Orhan tells Golgun that he couldn't be a mother to their children, never disciplined them, and let them loose so he wouldn't get into trouble himself. Golgun asks, did you become a father to them? Orhan says, if Farid had married Sona that night, none of these events would have happened. Because your son's heart desired Seyran, you should have told him to say it. We ruined that family that night. Can't you see what day we threw them into? Golgun says, I didn't see you object that night. You weren't a husband to me, nor a father to your children. Farid was a man. You couldn't protect him. Orhan says, if you hadn't sent Farid after Farid, he would be alive now. Golgun, crying, kicks Orhan out of the room. On her way out, Seyran asks Abedin to get her some water, and when Abedin walks away, Seyran escapes. When Abedin informs Farid that Seyran is gone, Farid goes crazy with anger and immediately starts searching for Seyran. He and Abedin scour all the surrounding streets, but there's no trace of Seyran. Seyran, with nowhere else to go, heads to the university and enters the 24-hour library, where she falls asleep behind one of the tables. A little later, Farid, aware that Seyran has nowhere to go, goes there too. He hears a noise from a distance and watches her until morning. In the mansion, Kaya, driven by the night, has fallen asleep behind Sona's door. In the morning, he goes to her to talk. Kaya expresses regret for what happened, and Sona, with a laugh, says, it turned out well for you. You got rid of marrying an unfortunate girl that your heart ached for. Kaya understands that Sona overheard his words and becomes upset. Sona says, I'm miserable. Despite knowing all this, I wanted to marry you because I was tired. I wanted to be the lead in my life. But it didn't happen. She asks Kaya to leave the room and then cries bitterly. Sona informs her family that her marriage to Kaya has fallen apart because he doesn't want her. Kozim gets angry and asks, how could you let him go? Didn't I teach you like this? Just then, Latif enters and tells Kozim and his family that Khalis Khan has ordered them to leave as soon as possible. Kozim protests, but Khadija says, is there any pride left for you? How do you want to stay here? And asks Azmi and Sona to get ready. When Seyran opens her eyes and sees Farid, she is shocked. Farid prevents her from leaving and says, Seyran, don't go. Accept that I love you. Seyran says, I loved you. The person standing in front of me is not the one I loved. Don't follow me. She leaves the university, takes a taxi, and Farid sits beside her, asking the driver to move. Seyran puts her foot down to escape, heads towards the beach and sits on the ground. Farid comes alongside, apologizes, and says he hasn't betrayed her. Seyran says, Pelen is pregnant with you. Is that a lie? Pelen is no longer the issue. I don't believe anything anymore. Farid says, I'll do something to make you believe. Farid leaves Seyran alone but has two people tasked with updating him about her every moment. Farid catches up with Seyran again and says, why don't you believe me? You heard everything. Seyran replies, you're going to have a child with another woman, Farid. That's enough. Even if I give you the right, nothing will change. You've been so selfish and egotistical, throwing both me and your child's mother into this situation. That child needs you, but I don't. I'll manage my life on my own. Farid says, who do you have? Where do you want to go? Seyran says, the outside world is a big place, and with your narrow understanding and small desires, you're helpless against it. I'll stand on my own feet and create my happiness. Except, Farid, this time you lost. I'll never come back. She places the ring in Farid's hand and leaves. Thank you for watching, stay tuned for the next episode.